the person that hurt you to do something about it. I learned that ain't their responsibility. What we expect from people, oftentimes we think they should know. Good evening. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Faith in Heels, the revolution of women, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I'm your host, Pastor Andria Hudson, the CEO of Ash Enterprises, where we are mentoring, motivating, and moving you for ministry and marketplace. I'm so excited. This is our first show ever. Can you believe it? I know you can't believe it. I know you cannot believe what I'm telling you, but I'm telling you the truth. This is the very first Facebook Live show, online presentation that I've ever done. I've been a part of everyone else's Facebook Live series, shows, panel discussions, but I've never hosted one by myself. I've never hosted one from my company, from my business, and this is the very first one. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Can't you tell? I'm so excited for number one, March. This is the month of March, and it is Women's History Month, where we actually take the time this month to celebrate womanhood. We celebrate all things women. We celebrate our contributions. We celebrate and recognize key leading women in our world. We celebrate our endurance, our resilience. We celebrate our accomplishments. So I'm excited that we host this new series in the month of March, that we're actually doing this new online series. And I know that there's going to be more, but this one is very special because we're actually hosting it in Women's History Month. And so if you're a woman that is watching, I want you to type in the comments, I am glad to be woman. Type it in the comments, I am glad to be woman. Yes, I love being a woman. It's not a curse. Even though sometimes the issues that we go through as women feel like it is, but it's not a curse. It is such a tremendous blessing. As women, we are the incubators of life. We're the givers of life. We're the carriers of life. We do so much. We wear so many hats, and we do it with grace, and we do it effortlessly. So I celebrate all of the women today and in the days to come. I see you guys in the comment section saying, I am glad to be woman. Yes, 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 yes. Nothing against our men. We love them dearly. We do. We love them. We celebrate them. We support them. Without them, come on, we need them. We do need them. But the Bible tells us in the book of Genesis that when God looked at Adam, he said, it's not good for man to be alone. It is not good for man to be alone. I'm going to create a helpmeet. And I heard someone, and I believe it was Dr. Cindy Trim, one of my most amazing mentors that I listen to and look up to. I heard her say this years ago. She said, when God looked at Adam, saw that he was alone, he created the second edition. And the second edition is usually better than the first. Ha! Come on now. I'll never forget that. So we celebrate us being the best. Come on, women. We celebrate us being the best. And I'm so excited for this session tonight, this discussion tonight. It's going to be the first of a 3-part series this month. Next Wednesday night, we're going to be back on here, as well as on the 30th, talking all things women, the revolution of women. Not just the revolution, but the evolution of women, because we're constantly evolving and emerging. So So I want to say thank you to everyone that is joining us. I see the numbers, they are going through the roof. We want you guys to take tonight's discussion. We want you to share it. Will you do me the favor? Please do us the favor, me and our guests. If you would take tonight's show and share it to your social media following. We want to get the word out tonight because tonight's discussion is a very special one. It's a very special one. It's a very needed discussion. And honestly, in 2022, I can't believe that we're still kind of tiptoeing around this discussion about mental health. Unfortunately, we are. It's still a taboo subject, but I believe the more we talk about it, the more we get understanding, the better we will be. The better we will be as a people, as women, as humankind, the better we'll understand ourselves, how our brain works, how our emotions work. And God created everything that we need. He created physicians, He created therapists, He created life coaches, He created pastors, He created everything that we need. And I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm going to introduce our guests in just a minute, but I was thinking about this earlier that, when we're not feeling well physically, we will take medicine so that we can feel better immediately. If we're having a headache, we'll take Tylenol. If we're having some joint pain, we'll take Motrin. As ladies, when it's that time of the month, come on, we'll take Midol or Motrin or ibuprofen or whatever it is to ease what we're going through. If we're having a cough or a sore throat, we take cough drops or cough medicine. But it's when we talk about mental health that we get, a little apprehensive. We're afraid, it's just a taboo subject. But I believe that how we are physically, it should be how we should be mentally, literally. And then when it's time for you to reach out and say, I need some help, this is becoming very overwhelming. You shouldn't feel bad in doing so, especially for our African American women. If you need help, you should not feel bad in saying, I need help. Doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It doesn't mean that, you're totally out of alignment. You just need somebody to help get you realigned. That's all. It's just like, going to the chiropractor. Your bones need to be readjusted. Your core needs to be readjusted. And sometimes our minds need to be readjusted. And that's why even the Word of God tells us that it's about the renewing of the mind. I look at therapy as renewing the mind. We know that we can renew our minds with the Word of God, but God has given us professional individuals that have the grace to help us renew our minds and realign our thinking and our lives as well. So I'm so excited that I have beautiful Black girl magic with me tonight. Beautiful Black girl magic. Yes, I do. They are credentialed. They are professional. They are degreed. They spent a lot of money. When I read their bios, you're going to see immediately they spent a lot of money in their professional, accreditation, going to school for years so that they can be a help to us. And so tonight we're going to talk about womanhood, being a woman, and our mental health. And I hope you're ready for the discussion. Let me introduce our fabulous guest. Dr. Carla L. Stewart has been serving the community through mental health and wellness counseling and consulting for 19 years. That's a long time. And she still loves to do it. That's a blessing. She is a two-time graduate of National Louis University with a Bachelor of Arts in Applied Behavioral Sciences and a Master of Science in Counseling. Carla's experience began and continues through creating and facilitating workshops on topics related to mental health and wellness. To meet the needs of the larger community, she opened her own private counseling and mental health consulting agency, CLS Comprehensive Services, LLC, in 2009. Let us welcome our first guest, Dr. Carla Stewart.
Thank you so much for having me, Pastor Hudson.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm looking forward to picking your brain and you sharing your expertise. Thank you once again for accepting the invitation to be a part of Faith and Heals.
Thank you.
Let's introduce our next guest. She's very special to me. I love her dearly because she's a spiritual daughter of the Powerhouse Chicago. She is Dr. Erica Carter. She is a licensed clinical professional counselor, providing individual and family therapy to children, teens, and adults. Her determination, drive, and faith has propelled her into a career dedicated to improving the well-being of others. As a psychotherapist, Dr. Carter has worked in community mental health, a psychiatric residential treatment facility, and she currently works for the Center for Professional Growth, a private practice in Carroll Stream, Illinois. Her experience ranges from individual, group, and family therapy, and her scope of practice includes treatment for anxiety, depression, grief, loss, relationship issues, self-esteem, parent-child relationships, stress management, ADHD, and emotional dysregulation. I want us to welcome Dr. Erica Carter. You can say something, Dr. Erica.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Pastor Andria, for having me on tonight. I am so excited about this topic of mental health, and I'm so looking forward to just sharing on tonight. Thank you.
You are welcome. Looking forward to, again, picking your brain, getting your knowledge. I'm all for it, all for it. So you guys that are watching, put it in the chat section. Welcome our ladies. Come on, let's cheer our ladies on. They're going to help us tonight, all right? Our next guest is Lakeisha Johnson. Lakeisha Johnson is a pediatric acute critical care travel nurse, a native of Anderson, Indiana. She earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in folklore and ethnomusicology. Okay, you're going to explain that to us in a little bit, what that is, okay? From Indiana University in 2014. Having felt called to serve in the medical profession, she went on to earn a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from St. Mary of the Woods College in 2019. As a frontline healthcare worker fighting COVID-19, she left her home state to respond to critical nursing shortages around the country, providing her services to leading hospitals in New York, California, Louisiana, New Jersey, and currently in Maryland over the past year alone. Let us welcome a frontline worker who has been out there on the battlefield, Lakeisha Johnson.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Pastor Andria, for having me. I'm so excited and ready to dive into this topic that is so necessary for all of us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. I have watched your journey over the last year through social media and what you've had to endure in literally fighting this invisible virus. And you're going to talk to us about that in just a little bit. So we are excited to have you a part of the discussion. Our last guest. She's the youngest of the crew, but she's got a lot of knowledge already. And I'm so excited that she's family. She's my cousin. And when I got the news that she had graduated, had gotten her degrees, and she's now a therapist, I was so ecstatic. I said, yes! Black girl magic at its best, and she's family. So let me introduce our last guest, Donisha Collier. She is a marriage and family therapist currently working for a Black-owned private practice named Phoenix Rising Counseling, located in Chicago, Illinois. As a marriage and family therapist, she works with populations of couples, families, individuals, teenagers, and some small adolescents. Donisha's area of focus is also helping individuals who have anxiety, depression, and trauma. Her goal is to help people to strengthen relationships, improve communication skills, develop effective coping skills, help express emotions or thoughts, and set boundaries. Let us welcome our last guest for our discussion tonight, Danisha Collier.
Thank you for having me, Pastor Andria.
Oh,
I'm
you are
excited to
more,
do this tonight.
you are more than welcome. And I want to say to our audience, these ladies are not just degreed, they're not just, professionals in their industries, but they are saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit. Listen, come on now. Listen, all of them have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So we're going to get the goods tonight. We really are. And again, if you're joining, we want you to dialogue with us. I see so many. Let me just take the time to greet our audience, and then we're going to dive right into our discussion. I see Kim Johnson is on here. I also see Michelle Bardwell Hood, Courtney Martin Woods. Hey, Lady Courtney. Deborah Smith, Jasmine Lee. Oh my goodness. Tanya Chase Udell, Deborah Smith, Angela Echoes. Oh, we have Linda Horn, B. Mathis. Oh, we got so many that are coming in. Patricia Hudson, my mother-in-law, is on, you guys. Tiffany Hill. So many are coming in from around the country. So we welcome you tonight to Faith in Heals, the revolution of women, as we talk about women and mental health. So again, we want you to share tonight. Do us a favor. All of us, do us a favor and share tonight's discussion on your social media page so that your followers and everyone else can be connected to this amazing, important discussion that we're going to have tonight about women and our mental health. Let's dive in, shall we? I'm going to ask this question, and I want actually all of you to answer. And our first question is, how or have certain aspects of your identity, I'm going to rephrase it again, have certain aspects of your identity, background, religion, or culture influence how you think about mental health? Has your identity, background, religion, or culture influence how you think about mental health? Dr. Carla Stewart, we'll have you answer first.
Thank you. I would say yes, that my background definitely influenced how I viewed mental health. My family was very logical and very practical, and mental health was presented to us along the lines of physical health. So you take care of your mental health just like you take care of your physical health. And I actually come from a long line of ministers and pastors. And my grandmother, of course, was the first lady of the church. My mom is a minister, a pastor. And so a lot of people came to them to talk to them about their issues and their problems. And so we were encouraged to discuss things that bothered us. So when I was younger, I had a voice. I could express my feelings. I could express my displeasure as long as it was respectful, of course. And so although this was not clinical counseling as I know it and as I have studied, it laid the foundation for me to understand the discussion of things that caused me emotional distress or discomfort was normal. So that was how I was raised.
And that's actually a blessing, because in most households, especially African-American households, you didn't have that type of freedom
At all.
at all. This is what mama and daddy say, or mama says, and that's it. No discussion, not how you feel, none of that. So you were actually very blessed
Definitely
to be in an environment that welcomed your perspective and your voice. Thank you so much for sharing. Dr. Erica, how has your identity, background, religion, or culture influenced you and your thinking of mental health?
So I grew up probably the opposite of Dr. Stewart. Mental health was not even talked about in my home, in my family. Just thinking about growing up as a child and just all the things that I saw that any child would need therapy for, it just wasn't talked about. It just wasn't dealt with. And so fast forward to even after getting saved, I remember as a child, my mother, she worked in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Chicago. And as a child, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. But after getting saved and in the Pentecostal church, in my mind, I felt, oh, how can I be saved and prescribe medication? And so that completely changed my whole thought process about even wanting to be a psychiatrist. And so, but God has a way of bringing your life back around full circle. And so, although I'm not a psychiatrist prescribing medication, I'm still in the mental health field, providing therapy. So,
woo, we're going to talk about the link between Christianity and mental health, because you said something so powerful. When you received Jesus, when you became saved, there was a conflict in your thinking of, how can I become a psychiatrist and prescribe medicine, as if there was, well, we gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Please, those of you that are watching, don't go nowhere. As they say, don't change dials, any of that, because so far all of this is so good. Danisha Collier, let's hear from you. How has your identity, background, religion, or culture influenced how you think about mental health?
I think about it culturally. Growing up, therapy, mental health was not even talked about. If a child was bad, it's like, oh, that child needs Ritalin, or whoop them, or even like women are sad, we're not knowing about PCOS or postpartum and those things like that. And so it really just made me want to be more curious about psychology, and then want to get inside mental health and, women's health in general. So that's how I got to where I'm at right now.
Wow. Let me ask you something. What, if you can pinpoint a moment in your life where you said, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do? A moment, a pivotal moment in your life where the light bulb says, this is the profession that I want to work in, that I want to serve in.
My background, I'm a manager at a restaurant. And so one of the employees there was a woman, and was self-harming, was cut on her arm. And so I was talking to her about that. And I'm like, this is something that, I want to do. And she was a teen as well, too, a teenager. And so I'm like, this is something that I really want to do. I want to be able to help young girls, young teens, before they get older and have this trauma, these suppressed emotions that they can't get through and stuff like that. So that's where I knew I wanted to do that.
Wow, that's so awesome. And we're glad that, you decided to move forward with it, because a lot of individuals, are scared to move forward with their vision and with their dream. But you decided to do something about it. Lakeisha, I want to talk to you because even though you're not a therapist, you're in the medical field. And so you're serving patients, every single day in the hospital, and even though physically, mental health is still a part of it, especially in the time that we're living in and what we've had to deal with within the last 2 years. So let me ask you, how has your identity, background, religion, or culture influenced how you think about the medical profession and mental health?
I think just in general, in the household I grew up in, what happens in the house stayed in the house. And what you experience is what you experience, and you kept it moving. And so as I grew up, I experienced what I experienced, and I keep it moving. And there's never a moment where you take the time to say, wait, that actually did hurt my feelings, or maybe this is something I need to talk about, because we didn't talk about it at home. You didn't get therapy, you got a whooping, and you kept it moving. And that was that. And there was many times where, things were going on, and my father would say, oh, just whoop them, they'll be all right. Or, maybe they just need time out, or take the cell phone or something like that. And so then as I grew into the woman that I am now, I experienced the trauma, I experienced what I see, and I keep walking, and you don't think about it. And even in the the hospital, you know, we were seeing death daily. And I work with kids. Kids is my passion. Even working, I worked at a state psychiatric facility in Indiana, and I worked with the kids there as well. And what we fail to realize is that a lot of what children experience are in relation to the trauma they experience. And so because we're not talking about it in the home, because we're not allowing the discussion, then it carries with them and they grow and they grow. And then now we're having to prescribe the medications. Now we're having to discuss all these things. Whereas this could have been addressed at 7 or 8 years old, as opposed to 27, 28, 29. Now they're in adulthood trying to find a mate and can't figure out how to communicate properly. So that's been my experience, just trying to figure out that, no, you can talk about these things. No, people will listen to you. And it's not taboo to say what has happened.
Ooh, we are doing good, y'all. And this is just the first question. I just see a comment. I've got to read it. This is from Tambra Gaucher Bryant. Good to see you, woman of God. She said, this is so needed because for years there has been a conflict between Christianity and seeking counsel for mental issues. It was almost a sin to seek anyone but Jesus for mental health or to discuss trauma. This leads us into our second question. And I want to hear from Dr. Erica Stewart on this one. What is stigma? What does it look like? And how has society been affected by the stigma of mental health?
So which one of us? You said Erica Stewart. So we're
I'm so sorry. Dr. Erica Carter. Because you guys' pictures are together and your names are together. I'm so sorry.
No
Erica
worries.
Carter. And then Dr. Carla Stewart, I'm going to have you expound on that as well.
Okay.
Thank you. So stigma for me is just those negative perceptions, those negative attitudes, or negative, those stereotypes around mental illness, which actually formulates this barrier for individuals to seek in mental health treatment. That's basically what I think of when I think about what stigma is. And so
how would you say that as a culture, as an African American culture, because everybody on here is African American. So how has the African American culture been affected by the stigma of mental health?
I think because as African Americans, I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I just
don't say that. This is, listen, no judgment here. This is let's be raw and let's be real. So come on.
I feel like we are a population that's the least likely to seek mental health treatment. And when I think about even in practice right now, out of, all of my clientele, I think I may have 2 African American clients, and they are actually new. I just got them like within the last few weeks. I think I have 1 African American child, and that's it.
Wow.
So it's, and even, talking to friends and just other individuals, and just as a therapist, it's so easy for me to psychoanalyze people without them even knowing it or talking to them. And just some of the responses, even when I recommend that, somebody should get therapy, it's like, no.
In 2022, it's still, oh my goodness, this is something. Dr. Carla Stewart, let me hear from you. I mean, expound on this whole stigma with even with our society.
So when we think about mental health, a lot of people confuse mental health with mental illness, and that's where we get kind of stuck.
Okay.
They don't think about mental health in terms of making sure that you are healthy, whole from a spiritual, mental, emotional place. They think about what they've seen in terms of people kind of walking down the street and they're kind of talking to themselves and people not being in their right mind. And so they think that mental health is just that aspect. And so there's a labeling that people are afraid of. You hear people say all the time, I don't want to be labeled. I don't want to be labeled. And the label, what I try to share with people, the label or the diagnosis helps you get the treatment. The label and diagnosis is not something that is limiting, even though people see it as limiting. I like to use the example from a physical perspective. So say if I broke my leg, you would want the doctor to be able to diagnose your broken leg so you can get the help that you need in order to address that fracture. Same thing with mental health. You want your clinician to be able to diagnose where the need is so they can apply the appropriate treatment to that need. And so what happens is stigma has come from the way people have treated those people that have had mental health issues, right? And a lot of times because things are invisible, they're not believable.
Ooh, wait. Say that again, Dr. Carla. Say it again.
Because it's invisible, people don't think it's believable. If I don't see that you have this issue, I don't really think that you have an issue. And so we go around holding on to these issues and not sharing them because it's not physically seen. It's not important to people. And so I think that's why we see a lot of the stigma and not really addressing the issues that people are having. And then it goes back to something Lakeisha said too about what goes on in this house stays in this house. We don't address it because we don't have a space to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
my goodness, this is so good. Let me tell you guys that the comments are going off. Let me just take the time to read some of these comments. Somebody said that's good. Mental health versus mental illness. Because I think as a society, we really don't know the difference. We just have lumped everything together, which has created more misunderstanding, more mislabeling, more miscommunication, more fear. So I'm so grateful that you took the time to distinguish the two because there is a difference. Someone has something, she says, exactly. Can we dive in on the stigma in African-American households? Why is seeking treatment, therapy, or simply addressing issues looked down or over? Dr. Erica, if you can address that that statement from our viewer tonight.
I think it goes back to one of the things that Lakeisha mentioned that has always been very strong in our African American culture is, what goes on in this house stays in this house. You don't talk about what has gone on. You don't talk about what has happened. You don't talk about the trauma that has taken place. And so it can be because of shame. I think shame has a lot to do with why individuals don't seek therapy or want to deal with those issues. Shame, embarrassment, and sometimes individuals think it's just something that we can just sort of look over, or we can just pass over it, but not recognizing that when you do that, most likely it's gonna come back up at some point in your life. It's amazing how many adults I see who are still dealing with issues from when they were kids. They still dealing with issues from relationships, dysfunction in the household, relationship issues with their parents or their siblings, things that has carried on for years because they didn't think they needed to talk about it. They were too ashamed to talk about it. They didn't feel comfortable or that they had the space to do that, or that it was just frowned upon within their culture or within their family.
Absolutely. And then I've noticed too, just as as a ministry leader, that and we always tell individuals as pastors and ministers, we're not therapists. We don't use the word counseling because we're not counselors. We give wisdom, we give spiritual, spiritual wisdom, spiritual mentoring. But I've noticed in the years of just, ministering to people that, when I come to the point where I realize that I can't help them anymore from my point as a minister, and I bring up the subject of, them possibly seeking professional counseling, it's, the whole drawback, it's like, oh no, I don't need that. Let me just keep coming to you. And I'm, no, you ain't gonna keep coming to me. And I've taken you as far as I can go, but it's the drawback. It's the fear. It's, it was whatever was said in that family about therapy. So, growing up in Black households, all you need is Jesus. You need that. All you need is go to church. And what people fail to realize is the church is full of patients, because the church is a hospital. Mm-hmm. And for decades, the church has been semi ill-equipped to handle issues pertaining to mental health, because we haven't had the education and the understanding. And so I think that even this conversation right now is bringing enlightenment to those that are listening and will listen, because we're going to have this discussion on the page for future viewing. But it's going to bring, and it's going to also tear down some strongholds that people have had about, seeking counseling and connecting with a therapist. We're going to keep going, because we can stay on this subject of stigma for the entire evening, but we're going to continue to go. I want to hear from Lakeisha. Lakeisha, you're an RN. You're out there in the field. You have mentioned that you are a primary care nurse for children, and you've been out on the front line even during COVID-19. So I want to hear from the differences between women now, how we think, how we feel, who we are, compared to the generations before us, the baby boomers and the silent generation.
I feel like I gotta be a little careful, because I don't want nobody to get upset.
Come on, remember, no judgment. We want raw and
I'm gonna speak free now. I'm gonna speak free now. Okay, so I was hoping I got this question honestly, because there was a huge discussion on Facebook yesterday with one of my friends, and he posted, what happened to the women who cut all of their hair off when they experienced heartbreak? Is the love still not the same? You sit back, because you're like, it's kind of, it's a thoughtful question. And then one of my friends said, we're getting 26-inch weaves and we're going to the streets to have a good time. And it's like, we are. Why am I sitting at home? I'm no longer sitting at home and wallowing over what has left or what is no longer in front of me. I realize who I am and what I occupy. So baby, you gotta go, I gotta go. You in the streets, I'm in the streets too. See you around the block. And so I think that is something that my generation is realizing, this whole culture and aspect of the man is bringing home the bacon. It diminishes us in the household, because now it makes it seem like you are the end all be all. But in reality, you're going to bring home the bacon, but I got to set the table and fry it up for you to eat. So we are no longer diminishing our worth. We're not doing that. We're not just sitting at home. And this is no shade to the mothers who are at home, because I have a beautiful sister who sits at home with her babies all day. And let me tell you, mother be more stressed than I be stressed at work. So I understand. I get it. But we're not doing that. We're not sitting at home wondering when he's going to come home. I'm not sitting at home wondering if Papa's out being a Rolling Stone. We're just not doing those things anymore. In the boardroom, we're no longer the secretaries. We're on the board of committee members. We're not bringing you the mail. We're reading the mail. We're not doing those things. And so, it's funny, because even just thinking about women who have influenced me, in their time, being the secretary was the step up.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was the step up. But now in this time, being the CEO is the step up. And so I think it's great that as new generations come, the expectations and the glass ceilings that used to be there, they're being shattered. And we're no longer just being content with where our mothers and our aunties and grandmothers were. Not to say they weren't in great places, because during those times they were at the top too. But we've got to keep taking the top even higher and even higher and even higher. Be better than me. I want our younger girls to look at us and say, oh, they have that. But I'm working in the hospital. I want you to own the hospital. And so we're paving ways for generations and even our counterparts to understand and say, look, girl, I got it. You can get it too. Let me show you how I did it.
Woo! I told you guys. I told you guys. Woo! She said some great things. I gotta read this this one comment from Angelica J. Smith. She says, I love my hair, not cutting it off for no man. Listen. Yes. And somebody said, Shonda Floyd says, they're bringing home the bacon and we're bringing the whole table. Listen, those of you that are watching, if we have men that are watching, please understand, we're not bashing you. We're not discrediting you. We honor you. You don't have to say that. You don't have to put the disclaimer out there. We're honoring you. But one of the things that I love about Women's History Month is the fact that we can celebrate how far we've come as women. And, Donisha, I definitely want to hear from you because you represent, a younger generation as well. And you can talk about, the difference between the baby boomers, the silent generation, and your generation, because Women's History Month, we celebrate how far we've come. And honestly, even in 2022, we still got some work to do as women. We really do. That there are still discrepancies, there's still stereotypes, there's still, the way that we're looked at and viewed, and oh my goodness, we won't even have time to even talk about that and how it affects our mental health. The labels that society has put on us as women, we've been looked and viewed because of our body parts and how that has affected us mentally. We won't even have time to go into that, but the strides that we've made, in motherhood, in marriage, in the marketplace, in ministry, in so many different areas. And honestly, I can honestly say, and this is just me, that we still have some ways to go. We still have some ways to go as women. We still have some ways to go as a race, as a Black race, unfortunately. So, Donisha, why don't you tell us, like, from your younger generation, how do you feel like where we are as women, compared to our predecessors, our grandmothers and great grandmothers and mothers? What's your views on that?
Like Lakeisha said, we are progressing. I feel like now this generation, we are taking every opportunity we can to be better than the past generations are. We set a bar for like the nieces, the sisters, and everybody else who is going to come up behind us, being mentors and things like that. Me myself, I have like a lot of friends who have started small businesses. That's women are doing a lot of that now, and they're creating more. It's a presence now of more women in business, I would say, than it was before in the past. It's always been like a men-dominated world, but now it's more women coming into the world. Same thing as in therapy, and even like more Black women are getting to being Black therapists as well too. I think
Absolutely.
being a Black woman, sometimes it's still like that. You still are timid because you want to be labeled, oh, you being bossy, but like you're a B word or something like that. Like, like you have to watch yourself if you're being too forceful, too powerful in a room with these men or people or non-Black people. Can be sometimes discouraging. So still, you have to be powerful, and I feel like we are making our presence very much known, and we are setting an example for the generations under us.
Ooh, this is good. I hope you guys are enjoying. I hope you are enjoying the people are talking, you guys. I know you can't see the comments, but they are talking. They are talking. We're going to continue to go because this time is already getting away from us. But we're going to talk about why people resist going to therapy. Whoever wants to take that question. Why do people resist going to therapy? Whoever wants to get that question, go for it.
I'll say it goes back to that stigma that we talked about. They could have had a bad experience with counseling at some point, not wanting to be labeled. And then if you think about it, getting help or seeking services is sometimes an assault on people's pride, right? Mm-hmm. We've been raised in our culture, especially a Western culture specifically, that we should be able to do things on our own without having assistance. So if I have to ask for assistance, if there's something that I need help with, there's a deficiency in me. And I don't want to feel deficient. So I'm not going to go. I'm not going to act like I'm deficient, because if I have to do that, then that means I have to lay down my pride and say that I actually need help.
Ooh, that's so good. Let me hear from Lakeisha. Why do people
feel
resist?
like pride is definitely a big thing, but therapy can be very traumatizing for people because you are unpacking generations of trauma. And most people don't go to therapy until they're in their adulthood. Okay. So as an adult, you telling me that I have to go and speak to someone and completely undo everything about who I am. That's scary. And it is an ongoing commitment and ongoing work. You can't just go one day and like everything is done and over with and you feel better. No, it takes time and it takes guts. It really does. And it's scary to just sit there and really have to come to terms with what has happened, what has occurred, and how you need to change it in order to be better for your present self. So yes, pride is a thing. Resources are a thing as well.
Yes.
Therapy can be very expensive for some people. Thankfully now there are some programs and it's more included in your health insurance plans and different things like that. But therapy can be expensive. And for lower income, poverty driven persons who really need it, they can't afford it. And so it's not as helpful to go only once a month, when you could afford the time and then can't go again until the following month. It is an ongoing thing. And I think that more than anything else, it is terrifying for me to finally have to come to a point where I say, yes, that really did happen. And yes, this really is how I felt. Because then I start to feel some type of way about the people who did it. And once you've finally gotten past certain things and you feel like you've healed that part of you, it brings it all back into your face again. And then you have to heal a different way that may not bring always the same favorable outcome as it did before.
Ooh, Jesus. This is so good. And I love the fact that everybody is unpacking in their own way, but it's all tying together. I'm going to read this comment. It just came up from B. Mathis. She says, in the church, I believe Christians are ashamed in getting the help needed outside of spiritual counsel because they're afraid of what people will think. When you say counseling, some immediately think, oh, people will think I'm crazy, when it's just really pride. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let's talk about depression, because for the most part, that has been a stigma on that as well, hugely. And if we were all to be honest, all of us, including myself, that everybody has been depressed, has lived through depression. Some of us didn't even know we were depressed, because we were just functioning. We were still keeping it moving and didn't even know that we were depressed. And then it leads to anxiety, panic attacks, panic disorder. Let's talk about, and for 2 years, we all have experienced a new normal that has affected us all mentally and emotionally. It forced individuals to even unpack their depression in a new way because we were all closed in. So let's talk about that really quickly, because again, we can spend a lot of time on the subject, but we definitely want to deal with the subject of depression. Danisha, I'm going to ask you, how would you talk to someone or minister to someone? Because even though you guys are doing this as a profession, it is still ministry. It is ministry. Someone that is dealing with depression, Danisha.
Depression is so complex. I ask a lot of questions. How long have you been feeling this way? When did you notice you're depressed? So what symptoms are you feeling? How long have you been feeling them? Do you feel like you're suicidal? And going through all this, and then we're thinking about what will make you happy. How can we fix this? Because I operate from narrative therapy. So basically, narrative therapy is like what's taken in your life that's not working for you, and how can we rewrite your life so things are working for you, so you're able to live the life that you want to. And so that's what I operate from. And so that's the lens that I have when I work with people with depression. I look for suicidal ideations and self-harm, but I want to know like what's going on in your head and your mind and your body, what's going on with your emotions. Is the people that in your household that may be increasing your depression and things of that nature. It's really it's really complex.
Yeah.
And it varies from gender and age.
Very true. And I'm glad you used the word complex, because again, the stereotype for depression in our society for decades is that someone is in the house with with no lights on, no music, nothing. They're in the dark. And that is definitely a form of depression. But let's talk about, for some of us, that was functioning, going to jobs, going to church, doing it all, and knew that something was wrong, that we were off.
Mm-hmm.
You know when you're not yourself, mm-hmm. but you just mm-hmm. keep it moving. Dr. Stewart, help us out.
So that, and it's I'm seeing some comments coming that are popping up mm-hmm. about high functioning depression, that you don't even really realize what it is, because we've had that stereotype that you are isolated and that you're by yourself. And sometimes it's I'm fully functioning and I'm out in the world, and as soon as I get home or get a moment to myself, it all comes down on me. Or you might notice that you are not putting your clothes away. It's piles of clothes over there, and you're usually an organized person. And so it's different things that will come up that you won't even recognize. Sometimes it takes someone else to identify it in you. And so in our community, we've treated depression kind of as like being a leper. It's one of the lepers. It's like leprosy, like stay over there with the depression, right? And what people tend to do with people who they think are depressed is they try to silver lining everything with them. They try to give you a million reasons why you shouldn't be depressed, right? They try to take you down the list of the things that you should be grateful for. And that's not helpful when somebody's experiencing depression, right?
Yeah.
They need some tangible solutions, right? They need something that can really be helpful in order to get them from the place that they are to the place that they want to be. So I would say to someone who's dealing with depression, you're not defective. You just feel things differently and you experience life differently, and you need additional support in order to be able to navigate life. Okay. It's not a in-death sentence. It's not the end of your world. It's something that you can work through, but you just have to have the right supports. And if that support is needed, find somebody that's qualified, find somebody that can help you go through the process, that identify what those symptoms are for you. Because even though there's a list of criteria and symptoms in our DSM-5, which is our diagnostic manual, it looks different for each person. It's totally different for each person.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to get with someone that can help you identify what that is and what that looks like for you, and what you need to get to the next step, and what you need to be able to manage and deal with the depression.
And then I've heard this term, so please help me out. I've heard situational depression. Mm-hmm. Dr. Erica, can you give us the definition of that, situational depression?
So situational depression might be something, whereas, for instance, you may have lost your job. Something specific has happened in your life that has kind of taken you down this road. So it's not, something that you may have necessarily dealt with for years, like some have, for extended periods of time, but something that could have just happened in your life. And man, you just don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I can think of my own self, for instance, when I went through divorce. That was kind of a situational type of thing for me. And so it was hard, but it only lasted, for a period of time. And then I was able to work through that. But I will say, although I was in the church, although I was shouting and dancing and praying and reading my Bible, I still saw professional help because, I knew what I needed. And I think that is so important that we have to realize or recognize or be self-aware about where we are and what we need and what we need to help us. And so I knew for me that was good and that helped me, that gave me strength. But I also needed somebody who could help me sort of process through that grief, through that loss. And so.
Because divorce is a death. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I think because, especially as women, because this whole discussion and what we're going to talk about throughout the month is us as women. As women, we have been taught to keep it moving. For some households, listen, cry, and then, keep it moving. You got children to raise. You got a husband to make love to. You got dinner to cook. You got a job to go to. I'm serious. For some of us, we didn't cry. We just learned to keep it because we didn't have that, that space to do it. Even for those of us that are single mothers, we didn't have the help. So you didn't have no space to sit and cry and unpack and release. You had to do everything. You had to be the husband and the wife, the mother and the father. And so, when you begin to feel a little off and something is not right with yourself, you don't have you say to yourself, I don't have time. I got these children I got to raise. I got bills I got to pay. And I think that we have come to a place in our society, especially as women, where this whole notion, this superwoman notion, is just incorrect. We've said we're super women, we can do it all. And it's just really incorrect. It's an incorrect stereotype. We've got people trying to live up to something that is totally incorrect. So, oh my goodness, we got to close in a couple minutes. You guys, oh my.
Can I say something about the depression side too?
Yes, please.
I think that we also have to be careful who we consider our friends, because my friend should be able to call me out on my depression. My friend should be able to recognize when something is off about me and not be afraid to tell me, hey, sis, you might need to start looking at this from a different way. And then at the same time, we have to be careful that the advice that we give our friends, because just because something worked for me, it's not going to work for her the same way, because as we know, depression is very individualistic. And so sometimes we do a disservice to our friends who we really think that we're helping, but we're actually hurting in the long run. And what I learned over the past year, one of my friends, whenever we call each other, we literally ask, what do you need from me? Is this a conversation you want my response to, or do you just want me to listen to? And I think we need to start being more aware, not only of ourselves, but the people around us. What do they need? What is it that we can do to actually help, as opposed to having this self-absorbing conversation? Well, I did this and I think you should do this. And well, this helped me, so it should help, because it's incorrect. And it really does not work out that way all the time.
Oh my goodness. That is so accurate about having the right people around you. Lakeisha, I want you to expound on this question. As women, what can we do to assure our, no. This is the question I want to ask. What role does a woman's physical health play in her mental health? Lakeisha, I want you to answer that from a medical perspective, as a nurse, being in the hospitals, working with patients, how has our physical health played into our mental health?
I think they play hand in hand. I think sometimes when we're not well mentally, we're not well physically. And when we're not well physically, we're not well mentally. They kind of go back and forth a lot of the times. And as women, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is postpartum depression. That is probably one of the biggest things that women tend to experience and go through. You know, we have all of these appointments leading up to having the baby. And then once you've had that baby, peace out. See you for your 6-month checkup, for your baby shots, and that's it. That's all that there is. Forgetting the fact that, you know, we now are experiencing sleep deprivation. We're not eating. We're not drinking. Some of us may have support. Some of us may not have support. And so physically, you start to wither away. And when you're not strong physically, what is there for the mind to really grasp and hold on to? Because all you can think about is, I haven't slept in 5 days. All you can think about is, oh my God, look at my house. It is a complete mess. There's no one to help me. So they kind of go back and forth with each other. And I think we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware of how powerful our physical health is and our mental health as well. We're in this big thing now of the BBLs and lipo culture. And I ain't gonna lie, I done looked up a couple times how much the lipo costs because I don't want to go to the gym. But it's like you look at and you get caught up in it. As confident as I am, you get caught up in, dang, she look good. Like, you know, she walking past you. Now I'm saved, so my dresses and skirts don't go too much above my knee a lot of times. But then you see them walking by, and you like, dang, she look good. Like, that's cute. Like, I want to do it too, or I want that. And then you start self-absorbing, like, hold on, wait a minute. And then you start looking at shows like 600 Pound Life and Tammy and them. They both got mans, 600 pounds. So it's like, baby, you better eat that honey bun and go on about your day. But they literally go hand in hand all of the time. And I feel like we neglect certain things. You know, off Legally Blonde, where they talk about the pheromones, and when you're working out, you get like just this burst of energy and excitement. It's true. It really is true. When you really take good care of your physical health, mentally, you're just so much clearer. You're able to think clear. You're able to be the best version of yourself. Your energy is a lot more. You're not, you know, dragging throughout the day, having to supplement with energy drinks and coffee and, you know, all of these different things. And so I think once we realize that they're not two separate entities, that they work together, I think then we're able to really take into account both of them at the same time.
Awesome. And I always, you know, tell people that God made us a 3-part being. He gave us a physical body. We have a soul, which is our mind, our will, our intellect, our imaginations, our emotions, and then we have a spirit. And the 3 of them should be working cohesively together. The soul, which is your mental state, your mind, your emotions, your physical body, and then we know that our spirit is the one that's going to live forever. So all 3 should be communicating to each other, talking to each other, working together. That's how you live in true wholeness. For the sake of time, oh my goodness, because I wish I could keep you guys on longer. This question is not a part of the questions that I gave you all, but I just feel the need that we do need to expound on it just a little. And then we're going to talk about self-care and then close everything out. We live in a digital age. We live in an age where social media is a part of our lives, our everyday lives. There's no getting around it. How has social media affected us mentally and emotionally as women? Donisha, I'm going to have you expound, you know, talk about how social media has affected us as women mentally and emotionally. And then if the other ladies, if you guys could, you know, add to it as well. But Donisha, we'll have you go first.
Social media, if you look on your phone, you have a smartphone, it tell you your screen time every week.
Yes, it will.
How much you spend on these apps. And so you see how much time you spend on your phone, and you seeing what you're taking in. You're looking at these other women trying to maybe not infiltrate their lives, try to copy off this. Like, well, you said, like, I looked up BBL before, but I'm, because I want that. But you sometimes it plays on your self-esteem as a woman, or even like not even body type, but you see people your same age, like, oh, they moved to a different state, and they ain't got this job, they ain't got this husband, they ain't got these kids, and you like, oh, where am I at with my life? And it plays on your mental health, because you're like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be as at my same age as this same person. But I always say, I don't know how they got it. I don't know what they're going through to get it. So I don't want it because God didn't give it to me. I always
Come
say
on.
that. I don't know what they went through to get that. I might not be willing to go through to get it. But it really does play on your self-esteem and, how you view yourself as a person, as a woman, especially, you trying to hold yourself up to your standards or their standards.
Wow, you're so right. And we got to talk about it. And I don't think we talk about it enough. It's the whole comparison thing. Dr. Erica, if you could, expound on social media and how it's affected us as women mentally and emotionally.
I would definitely agree with Danisha. I see, different women that deal with issues with body image. And one of the questions that I asked them is about the things that is influencing their thoughts of what they see as typical for them, if it's weight, size. And one of the first things that they mention is social media, TikTok, videos. And so it definitely plays a huge role in our self-esteem and how we feel about ourselves, and how accepting or not accepting of ourselves that we are, based off what we see in someone else or what we see out there on social media. And so it is definitely playing a huge role in our mental health and how we see ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Stewart, what can we do to fix this?
So it's a lot of self-work, a lot of work on yourself, because I noticed somebody said comparison is the thief of joy. And we're looking at people's lives in a small piece of the puzzle, but there's an entire, puzzle that goes along with it. There's so many variables outside of what you see that contribute to this person's story. And so you're looking at the finished product. And so one of the things is going to be to pull back from social media. I know it's hard. I just probably said I cursed somebody out, I guess, because that's going to be hard, right? Pull back from social media and be more present. Be more present in your own life. Be more present with your own people. Because if you're always looking at somebody else, now you're going back home trying to figure out how I can make that happen and look like that and do this, instead of being in a place, in a space where you are grateful for the things that you have and grateful for where you are in your journey and in your process. And so I'm one that takes periodic breaks from social media. I have to, because sometimes I look at other people and I'm like, oh, I want that. You find yourself in a place of envy sometimes. Yeah. And so pulling back and being more mindful about where you are, because sometimes we numb with social media. If we're not fit, we find ourselves, we're not feeling good, you go immediately to your phone. If you're in an awkward situation, you're immediately on your phone. So if you can get back to a place where you are present in your own life, that will help with some of the things and the feelings that you're experiencing.
Oh, this is so good. Lakeisha, let me get your views again, because you're the one that actually started it. Talking about the 600-pound and the BBLs and all of that. So Lakeisha, close us out with this question.
I think what you have to realize is that you see what people want you to see. Social media is not me. It's what I allow for you to see in this moment. And I think when you realize that, then you start to think that there is a complete background story to that supersedes this one post that you may get every 3 months from this person. And so when we kind of realize that, we understand that, You know, we don't understand what's going on in the background. We don't know what it took for them to get that. It may not even be theirs.
And most of the time
And
it's
that
not.
is something that we have to think about too.
Yes.
These people with some of these cars and these bags, they are stunting for the gram, as we like to call it.
Yes.
And so you are literally fantasizing about something that is not even real. And that is why you cannot obtain it. And so you got to stop chasing. You got to stop chasing what's really not even there.
There was a, and I think it's still on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. There was a documentary. I think it's called The Social Network or something, where they show you the behind the scenes of how these platforms, and I'm going to be careful and, because I don't want them to shut down my page and nothing like that, But how these platforms have targeted through algorithms and images and keywords. It's all, I'm serious. It's like, years ago, the Big Brother is watching. That documentary, Social Network, shows you that, the raw black and white of how they do all of this. And so we think it's like, oh, this is so cool. I was just looking at that on the website, and now it's on my social media feed.
Mm-hmm.
Really, they have literally studied you. They've studied your searches. They've studied what you've been looking at, what other pages you've been looking at, and they have now created something to suck you in. Please go watch The Social Network. Your life will be forever changed. But Donisha said something so powerful. Every week, you're going to get a notification, especially iPhone users, that gives you your screen time. I don't like when that notification comes up on my phone. I don't like it. I don't like it. And when I see how much time I have spent on my phone, I said, oh, no. Girlfriend, you do, you got to pull back. Pull back. Which leads me into our last question, self-care. Because as women, we still don't know how to take care of ourselves. We really don't. We still don't know how to take care of ourselves. And taking care of yourself is not on social media or on your phone every minute. That's not self-care. So for our closing question, I want to hear from everybody. What steps can we take as women in ensuring that we have self-care? What should we be doing for self-care? How important is it? We're going to close this way, and I want to hear from every medical professional, therapist, everybody on the importance of self-care. Lakeisha, we're going to start with you.
I think the first thing that you have to realize when you're trying to figure out what self-care looks like for you is you have to ask yourself, what brings me joy? What gives me the drive to get up the next morning? What clears my mind? What clears my spirit? What does that look like? And it's individualistic. It's different for every single person because every single person is going to have a different type of need. And so going to brunch with girlfriends every week may not be the self-care that's really for you. You're going because the friends are going, but is that really what you need for yourself? And so you have to be selfish with this, which is hard for a lot of us because we're used to being selfless. But when you think about self-care, you got to get down to the nitty-gritty. What do I need? What is going to help me? And so that's the first question you have to ask. The second thing you have to do is you have to be consistent with it. You have to carve out the time for it. This is not something you just say, oh, I'll do when I get around to it, because you'll never get around to it. You have to be very intentional about self-care. I talk about my social media all the time. After I've worked a stretch of days, I work night shift and day shift. So depending on what shift I'm on, I take myself to eat right after. Whether it's dinner or whether it's breakfast, I will go in scrubs. I do not care. And I'm going to somewhere expensive every single time. And I go right after work because if I don't, I go home, I go to sleep. I sleep for half the day. I wake up, I'm groggy. The house has to be clean, laundry's got to be done. And then I don't do it. And so I have to be very intentional about this self-care and what I need to help me keep moving.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's hear from you, Donisha. What is self-care and how important is it for us as women?
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Lakeisha said, self-care is very important, especially, as a woman, because we are so selfless and it's so hard for women. I know, like, I have a lot of female clients who are mothers, and they say, I don't have the time. It's important for you to make time for yourself, to spend time with yourself, to still know who you are as a woman, because outside of being a wife and a mom, you're still that same person that you were when you were individual. You're still that individual person. And so, like, finding a routine and finding something that works for you, you don't want to pick something that is going to feel like, oh, like another homework assignment, another task, like something that's going to bring you joy, something that you love, whether it's like doing a word puzzle, going to get a massage, getting your feet done, taking a nap, or doing yoga, whatever it is. Find something that's going to bring you joy and inside and out. Your body, your mind, when everything in your body is balanced and maintained, you feel better. You feel better as a woman. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. You said something that's not going to feel like a homework assignment. It's not going to feel tedious. That's not self-care. And I tell people, hair, nails, that's not self-care. That's maintenance. So anything outside of that, I know for some people say getting my nails done and it could be, but I want you to shift your mind, because as a woman, to look beautiful, feel good, and all of that, that should be a part of your maintenance, your weekly or bi-weekly routine. Let's really be selfish about ourselves, women, because we've got this stigma for decades that is all about somebody else. And we feel guilty if we do something for ourselves. Dr. Stewart, help us out.
Well, you led me right into what I was going to say. Let me start, though. I'm going to go back to something we talked about a little bit earlier. And I want to put this out there. Superwoman is a fictional character, period. I just want you all to know that, just in case you didn't know. She's in comic books. She's on the big screen. She is not us. All right? Number 2, self-care is caring for your soul. Definitely care for your soul. And how you do that is you have to be keenly aware of your own capacity. So where do you rank on your priority list? That's important. As women, we've been taught to be externally focused. And if we internally center, we were taught that that was being selfish. But if you don't engage in the care of you, who's going to engage and take care of you? So one of the analogies that we love to use is the oxygen mask. Okay. We say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you help somebody else. They say that on a plane every time you get on a plane, right? Oxygen mask. But for a moment, this is what I want you all to think about. I want you to shift your thinking, just like Pastor Hudson was just shifting you. I want you to put the oxygen mask on yourself, period, full stop. Not so that you can be ready to assist someone else, but so that you can fully engage in taking care of yourself. So it's not for anybody else. You're putting that oxygen mask on so you can take care of you. That's it. That's all. Not so you can take care of anybody else. All right. So make sure, I'm going to give you an acronym in my final words. Rest. Release every stressful thought or thing. The end.
Where the offering at? Where the offering at? Where the offering plate? The offering envelopes. We got to pass them out. These ladies have blessed us. Dr. Erica, close us out with the importance of self-care.
So when I think about self-care, self-care is not an option. It's not a privilege, but it's a necessity. Self-care is a priority. And when I think about self-care, I think about one word that is so difficult for most of us as women, because we wear so many hats. And that word is no.
Woo, I was waiting on it.
No, we have to be okay with saying no. We just can't do everything all of the time. And so we have to do a better job of taking care of ourselves. And we have to be able to tell ourselves that our needs are just as important as the next person, if not more. And it doesn't mean that because we feel guilty, as someone said, but it doesn't mean that we don't care. But we have to care about ourselves and know that our needs and our health and our well-being is just as important as our children's, our spouses, our friends, our jobs, our businesses. So that's what I'm going to leave you with, being okay with saying no.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The chat is just going off. Going off. Thank you, ladies. I feel the need. I don't know when, but I'm gonna have you guys back. Because I just feel like this was just not enough time.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do more about our mental health as women. And I even wanted to touch on, and we just don't have the time, the whole grinding mentality that we've adopted as a society, especially our younger generations. It's all about the grind, the grind. And that's so dysfunctional. It is. I even want to talk about the balance of ministry and mental health. See, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to talk about these things. I am not afraid. I know I'm a pastor. I know I'm a wife of an archbishop, all of that. I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff. I've been in church all my life and I have seen some stuff. And so even that aspect of the balance of ministry and mental health and how, yeah. And I'm telling you, we got to come back. We got to come back. We got to come back and do a part two. Definitely a part two, because I want to hear more from you guys. Lakeisha, I want to hear more from you as it pertains to the whole 2 years of the COVID situation, and what you have seen and all of that, and how it has played a part in your mental well-being. So those of you that are watching, we're going to do a part two. Stay tuned. I'm going to get the date together and contact these ladies, because I think we got something wonderful right here. We just don't talk about mental health enough. We don't. And I think it's time for us as women, especially women of God, women of faith, faith in heals, women of faith, that we take better care of ourselves. We've got assignments in the earth. We've got vision. We've got purpose. We want to live long, strong, healthy, and well to fulfill our assignments in the earth. Nothing missing, nothing broken. So I'm going to close us out with prayer. I want to thank each of our guests tonight, Dr. Carla Stewart, Dr. Erica Carter, Danisha Collier, and Lakeisha Johnson. Put it in the chat section. Let's celebrate these women for pouring into us. They were amazing tonight. I'm godly proud of each of them and the work that they're doing for humanity, and especially for us as African American women. I celebrate and honor each of you. So again, we're going to be back here next week. Next Wednesday, the 23rd at 7:00 p.m., we're going to talk about the millennials. We're going to have some amazing millennial and post-millennial women that are out there, I'm telling you, doing great big things. And so they're going to be with us next Wednesday. The following week on the 30th, we're going to talk about women in the marketplace. We're going to talk about sexism, racism, the things that we've had to overcome to climb up the corporate ladder. All of that good stuff is going to be on the 30th. But we will do a part two for this tonight. I don't know about the other shows, but this will be a part two. So stay tuned for the date. If you got to bring your daughters on here for our part two, your mamas, all of that, we're going to have, I just feel like God wants to do more healing. And I do believe that healing took place tonight in the lives of those that have watched. So thank you, ladies, again. Thank you, everyone that have tuned in for Faith in Heals, the Revolution of Women. This was our first show. I'm so excited, and there's definitely more to come. Father in heaven, we just thank you. We give you praise. We give you glory. We magnify your name. Thank you, Father God, for this time of impartation and revelation and even understanding. Thank you for the lives of these amazing women, God, that are not just working, but ministering in the field of mental health. God, I ask that you would bless them, bless their hands, God, bless their profession, bless their businesses, bless their work, God, everything that they have poured out. I ask, God, that you would replenish it in the name of Jesus. And for everyone that has watched tonight, God, that may be battling depression or fear or just apprehension of going to the next level and seeking some additional wisdom and counseling, God, I ask right now for a special blessing upon them now. Those that need questions answered, I ask, God, that you would lead them and direct them and connect them with the right professional therapists. God, we thank you that you've ordained all of this. You created all of this so that we can be well, so that we can be whole, and so that we can live healed in the name of Jesus. And so, Father, I just decree upon every person that is watching tonight that 2022, this year, will be one of the best years of our lives, because we're going to be intentional in taking care of ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. In the name of Jesus, we pray. And we give you praise and we give you glory. Amen. God bless you all. Have a wonderful rest of the night. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you back on next week for Faith and Heals, the Revolution of Women. God bless.